I was born with a strong sense of possession and never shortchanged myself. At 12, I sold my brother and became the only daughter. At 14, I killed my father and became the sole heir of the family. The general's mansion came to claim me, saying I was the true heiress. On the day I was brought back to the mansion, the fake heiress cried, saying, "I took my sister's place and I am sorry for her. I will now repay her with my life." With that, she jumped into the lake. Though she was fished out in the blink of an eye. My birth mother and my own brother, however, grew to resent me. They want me to always give way to the fake heiress from now on. I just smile without a word. At night, I enter the fake heiress's room and slit her throat. 1. Mother said, "You don't deserve to eat any of this. A worthless girl like you only deserves to eat shit." Cackle cackle cackle. My brother Afu held a bowl of pig offal, eating while laughing like a flock of ducks squabbling. I haven't had a full meal for many days. This bowl of pork offal is what I secretly saved up while helping my mother sell pork, hidden under the bed, and planned to eat in the middle of the night. Look at him, there's hardly any food left. Starving to the point where my eyes were turning green, I snatched the bowl away and frantically stuffed food into my mouth. Afu let out a shrill scream. "Mom, Yang Zayadai is stealing my meat." Mom grabbed a broom and started whipping me over the head and face. I ignored her, focusing only on devouring the food in the bowl. Ever since coming to this family, I've been getting beaten every day anyway, so I've long gotten used to it. After father came home drunk that night, mother was still seething as she nagged at him, "That good-for-nothing brat is nothing but an ungrateful little monster. We feed her, clothe her, and she still bullies our son. She deserves to die." Father waved his hand drunkenly. "She can't die. We spent good money on her. If you don't like her, just sell her off. It'd be a loss if she died." Mother perked up at the mention. "Right, didn't the Wong family on the front street want to buy a servant girl? Take that little white-eyed wolf with you tomorrow and ask him. As for the price, you negotiate with him about this much." The two began whispering, discussing the price to sell me for. Back then, they had been married for a year and still had no child. Bought me from a human trafficker to bring in a son. Now that you have a son, I've become superfluous in your eyes. The master of the Wong mansion on the front street is an old eunuch who has retired from the capital and frequently buys maidservants. I've heard that mansion is like a place that devours servants alive. People are bought in healthy and kicking one day, only to be carried out dead not long after. I don't want to be sold into the Wong mansion and end up a corpse. I lay in bed thinking for half the night. It dawned on me that the source of all this injustice was because of my younger brother Afu. Before he was born, I managed to scrape by in this household. Even though there was endless work every day, at least I had food to eat, clothes to wear, and a place to live, much better than being sold around all the time or begging on the streets. So, as long as Afu was gone from this house, my days would get better. An idea came to me as I turned my eyes. The next day, when my mother, as usual, told me to carry Afu on my back and take him to school, I turned around and sold him to an out-of-town slave trader. I had been bought and sold since I was young, so I knew how to sell someone the quickest. I offered the cheapest price and bought a male child. After receiving payment, the human trafficker slung Afu over his shoulder and scurried off in a flash. With the silver from the sale, I first went to have a good, hearty meal. As for what remained, I found a hidden spot near home, dug a small pit, and buried it. 2. Afu was gone. Mother and father's world collapsed. The school staff all claimed they'd never seen Afu. Mother lashed me mercilessly with a bamboo cane. But I stubbornly insisted I'd sent him to school. After reporting to the authorities, I waited and waited, but there was no news at all. Mother and father went mad searching everywhere. It's been over a year of searching. Couldn't find it either. Mother fell ill, lying down for a long time before barely managing to get up again. Her father said to her, "Our Ying family must have an heir. Give me another son." Mother obediently agreed. However, in less than half a year, my mother not only failed to give birth to another son but also lost her own life. After mother died, father started coming to my room at night, even trying to climb into my bed. He said, "Since I'm not his biological child anyway and I'm already this old, I can give him a son." I let out a piercing, pig-slaughtering scream and chased him out with the butcher knife. My loud shouts drew a circle of curious neighbors, eager to watch the spectacle. My father was an educated man, one who valued his face, and he no longer dared to act recklessly at home. That day, he coaxed me into the mountains, hoping to force himself on me in a secluded spot and break my spirit. I just lowered my head and sprinted wildly up the hill, with him chasing frantically behind. All the way to the edge of the cliff, I stopped. When he caught up, I took advantage of his panting and caught him off guard, giving his back a hard shove and pushing him off the high cliff. From then on, the entire household was mine. When the neighbors asked, I simply said my father had gone to take the imperial exams. Anyway, he's been using this excuse to fool my mother his whole life, and all the neighbors knew about it, so no one ever asked again. 3. But the peaceful days didn't last long. From time to time, people would come knocking on the door to propose marriage to me. The first 3 suitors were either ugly or poor. I see it all clearly. He says he wants to marry me. But what he really wants is for me to serve his whole family, plus bear sons and more sons, endlessly. I turned them all down. Then, my days became rather restless. Either someone was climbing over my wall in the middle of the night, or someone was pounding on my door in the dead of night. I carry a knife in my bosom wherever I go. Just as I was contemplating the idea of moving, the great general's manor in the capital sent someone to fetch me, claiming I was the real young lady mistakenly swapped at birth. 4. The old general has gone off to war. In the manor are the general's wife, her son Yarongjo, and the false young lady Yaxiangrong. I bear a striking resemblance to the general's wife. Upon seeing me for the first time, the general's wife held me in her arms, wailing loudly, "It's all my fault for letting my daughter suffer like this. Don't worry, we will definitely compensate you well." She was just about to take off the jade bracelet on her wrist and give it to me. From over in the garden came a piercing scream, "Help! The young lady has jumped into the lake." Madam instantly forgot to give me the jade bracelet. She quickly pushed me away and hurried off to the garden with everyone. The one who jumped into the lake was the fake daughter, Yaxiangrong. By the time we reached the garden, Yaxiangrong had already been rescued and brought ashore. At the sight of me, she, who had already been crying, began wailing as though someone had died in the mansion. "It's all my fault. I took Sister Zayadai's place and caused her suffering, leave you. I deserve to die, don't stop me, let me use my life to atone for my Sister Zayadai." Yaxiangrong was already delicate as a willow swaying in the wind, and with her tears falling like pear blossoms, she appeared all the more pitiable and endearing. With that, she shook off the maids holding her back, and made another attempt to leap into the lake. The general's wife was so frightened that her voice trembled. "My wronger, hurry and hold her back. If anything happens to the young lady, none of you will live to see another day." Meanwhile, my biological brother, Yarongjo, strode forward and firmly pulled Yaxiangrong into a tight embrace, declaring with conviction, "You are my sister, now and forever. You owe nothing to anyone." Then I was completely forgotten by everyone as they all gathered around Yaxiangrong. All to comfort Yaxiangrong. The general's wife gave her the jade bracelet that was originally meant for me. And Yarongjo had someone bring Yaxiangrong a snow-white, soft fox fur coat. Only after finally coaxing Yaxiangrong to smile through her tears did the general's wife finally remember me again. She turned to look at me and our family. "It was always only your sister Xiangrong since she was young, and she has been spoiled by us all along, never suffering the slightest grievance. Now that there's one more of you, it's understandable if she feels a bit off in her heart. Zayadai, you look like a sensible child. I believe you can understand, right?" Yarongjo put on a stern face. "Mother, why are you asking her? She's just a country girl, inferior to Xiangrong in every way. What does it matter whether she understands or not?" He then turned to glare at me and warned, "Zayadai, listen well. Xiangrong is the proper young lady of our household. When you go out, you may only introduce yourself as an adopted daughter. If you dare harbor even a hint of jealousy or resentment towards Xiangrong, don't blame me for being harsh with you." I knew my brother would always be the one to spoil me the most, Yaxiangrong cooed sweetly, finally giving up on her threat to jump into the lake. The Ye family mother and son gathered around her, escorting her to the small courtyard. Yaxiangrong turned back and gave me a triumphant smile. I didn't look at her, my eyes fixed instead on the snow-white fox fur draped over her shoulders and the jade bracelet on her wrist. How lovely. It looks quite valuable. 5. I really want the good things the Ye family gives to Yaxiangrong. Lying in bed thinking half the night, I came up with an idea. To get those good things, I think I have to please the Ye family like the fake young miss. So early the next morning, I personally went to the kitchen and prepared a lavish whole pig feast. Taichi shredded pork, braised pork knuckles and sauce, 9-turn pig intestines, stir-fried pork kidneys with garlic, spicy stir-fried pig ears. These were all skills I was forced to learn under the beating of my foster mother, a butcher, because my foster father and brother were picky eaters back when I was in the Ying family. As expected, the general's wife and Yarongjo thoroughly enjoyed the meal. Both of them presented me with gifts as a token of our meeting. A pair of golden-laid jade earrings. A jade Ryi hairpin. I just gleefully accepted the items. Yaxiangrong sobbing started again. "Mother, brother, do you no longer want wronger? Do you no longer love wronger? You said you would treat me and Sister Zayadai equally. It was all lies. I'm clearly here too, yet you only gave things to her. How do you think the servants see me? I'm so humiliated, Ryuwo. This time her tears earned her even more treasures than I had. Jewelry several times more than what I received. And a whole chest full of silk brocade. I was so jealous I could hardly stand it. Just as I was thinking about trying harder to win the favor of the Ye family in order to get my hands on more valuable things. What I didn't anticipate was that Ye Xiangrong would actually be more frantic than me. 6. That evening, Ye Xiangrong sent someone to my room, seized the newly acquired gold and jade pendants along with the jade hairpin, and had me taken to her quarters. The door was shut, with servants standing guard outside to prevent my escape. Ye Xiangrong raised her hand and slapped me across the face, sneering coldly, "With what right do you think you can compete with me? I grew up as the treasured jewel of the Ye family. They only recognize me as their daughter. You've seen it yourself, they only favor me." She tossed a dagger at my feet and said casually, "I don't want to see any more of these lowly tactics of using cooking to be for favor in this household. Cut your own tendons." I didn't move. Ye Xiangrong raised her hand, deliberately tooling her own hair in a slow, deliberate manner, then slapped herself across the face, letting out a soft, mocking laugh. "You tell me, if the Ye family who dotes on me the most sees you hitting me, would this general's manor still have a place for you? Little wretch, I'll give you 2 options now. 1. Be driven out of the manor. 2. Sever your own tendons willingly. My patience is limited. I'll count to 3. If you haven't made your choice by then, I'll call mother and my brother over. 1, 2. I bent over and picked up the dagger from the ground. I calmly ran my finger along the blade. Excellent, it's even sharper than the butcher's knife I used before. Ye Xiangrong let out a scornful chuckle. "Ha, I knew it, a lowly wretch like you would never give up the luxury and prestige of our general's household." Yet I did not let her finish her last word. With a dagger, I swiftly slit her tender throat. Ye Xiangrong fell to the ground with a thud. Her beautiful eyes widened in an instant. A face drained of color was filled with disbelief. Blood gushed out in streams. It soaked through my entire body. Only after I watched her die thoroughly did I bare my teeth in a grin. Great. All the fine things that once belonged to the general's daughter are finally mine alone. A servant guarding outside the door heard the noise and pushed it open. He saw the room filled with blood. For servants, 2 of them fainted from fright. The other 2 stood dazed for a few seconds before stumbling away to find the general's wife and Yarongzhou. 7. Upon hearing the news, the mother and son hurried over. At the sight of the blood on the ground, the general's wife didn't even have time to react before her eyes rolled back, and she passed out. The first thing Yarongzhou did upon arrival was to rescue his most beloved sister. But by this time, Ye Xiangrong was not just out of breath, her body had already gone stiff as a board. Yarongzhou let out a painful, mournful cry. With eyes bloodshot and howling to avenge Ye Xiangrong, they raised their sword and lunged at me. I calmly tightened my grip on the blood-stained dagger that had just grazed Ye Xiangrong's neck. At this pivotal moment that would determine whether the future general's manor would have only a single son or a single daughter. The old general has returned from the war. 8. With the old general present, neither Yarongzhou nor I managed to kill the other. Yarongzhou howled and demanded that I pay with my life for Ye Xiangrong. The old general didn't allow it either. He even knocked the overexcited Yarongzhou unconscious with a single palm strike and had him taken to a room to rest. The old general immediately sealed all news within the manor overnight. Not a single word about tonight's events is to be leaked. The fainting general's wife was sent to her room, and a physician was summoned to attend to her. Ye Xiangrong's corpse was taken away to be dealt with. The courtyard where she lived was quickly cleaned up spotlessly. Then, the old general gathered all the servants from Ye Xiangrong's courtyard and the side room where I lived. He interrogated them one by one. Those who confessed honestly were rewarded with silver. One who refuses to speak will be punished with the plank. In less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the entire process of my conflict with Ye Xiangrong was thoroughly examined. The old general's face darkened as if it could drip water. "Although wrong was at fault first, you cannot kill. She is your sibling sister. How can you be so cruel and ruthless at such a young age?" I was locked up. 3 meals a day were delivered to me. During this time, Yarongzhou tried several times to sneak in and kill me, to vent his hatred. But the old general sent his personal guard to watch over me, so Yarongzhou couldn't find any chance to strike. Not only did he fail to find an opportunity, but the old general discovered him and, in a rage, personally administered the family punishment, whipping him 30 lashes. I heard his back was torn to shreds. But I wasn't panicked. From start to finish, I didn't argue, make a fuss, or protest. I just stayed quietly in my room, eating, sleeping, and reading. There are many books in this room. I never attended school, but I used to send Afu there every day, and I listened to many lessons by peeking through the window. I've always learned things quickly. As a result, I know quite a few characters, so reading books isn't difficult for me. I've found that once a person gets into books, it's like an addiction, you just can't put them down anymore. I read during the day, I read at night, I read while eating, I read while sleeping. Being locked up didn't feel boring at all, in fact, I was enjoying myself. Finally, the old general has lifted my confinement. 9. I never saw the general's wife again. I heard that the incident of me killing Ye Xiangrong truly shocked, angered, and made her hate me. She said she never wanted to see me again in this lifetime. After waking from her fainting spell, she moved to a separate estate to live. But the old general recently had her move back in again. Because he needed her as the mistress of the household, to handle my wedding arrangements. I wasn't surprised by this. The old general and the current emperor have been close friends for many years. When we were young, fighting side by side on the battlefield, we made a childhood marriage promise for our children. This was something I had accidentally heard Ye Xiangrong bragging about when I was just brought back to the general's mansion. At that time it was because a maid accidentally stepped on the hem of her skirt, leaving a small stain. Ye Xiangrong was displeased and insisted on breaking the maid's foot. Her wet nurse advised her to rein in her temper, or she would suffer in the future after getting married. Ye Xiangrong curled her lips and spoke a few words with utter indifference. She said her father had privately told her that she was destined to marry a prince, and whichever prince she married would become the crown prince. When the crown prince becomes the emperor, she will be the empress, standing above all except the emperor himself, able to do as she pleases, with no one daring to show her any disrespect. At that moment, the phrase above all others was branded into my heart like a searing mark. Therefore, the reason I killed Ye Xiangrong that night was not merely a momentary rage over her intention to sever my tendons, but a high-stakes gamble. After killing Ye Xiangrong, the old general did not demand my life in return. Then I knew I had won the bet. The old general had a son and a daughter early on, but after being injured in a later battle, his health was fundamentally damaged and he could no longer have children. If the one who killed Ye Xiangrong was someone else. Xiao Hu. File anti-piracy, find a robot to choose Xiao Hu, stable and reliable, no pitfalls. There are no daughters left to marry the crown prince. The old general could rage to the point of flaying the culprit alive, digging up their ancestral graves. Yet the one who killed Ye Xiangrong was me, his own flesh and blood. And now his only remaining daughter. Therefore, Ye Xiangrong's death was not so significant. Because he still had me, his daughter, to help him climb into royal favor, to marry a prince, and continue to solidify his power and status. 10. Upon learning that I had been released from confinement and was to marry a prince, Ye Rongzhou was so furious that he nearly ground his teeth to dust. I had just gotten out of the house I was locked in, and he came at me again, sword in hand. Of course, he failed once again. The newly healed skin on his back was torn to shreds. After all, this concerned the old general's grand plans for the future, and he could not allow Ye Rongzhou to ruin the affairs he had carefully orchestrated. The old general sternly warned him not to lay a finger on me again. And only after forcing Ye Rongzhou to promise with his own mouth not to trouble me anymore, did they let him be sent back to bed to recover from his injuries. The general's wife has indeed returned, but she does not see me. All matters were conveyed through her personal maid, Kaya Hua. She told me to voice any needs I had. I immediately and unceremoniously listed everything I wanted. Gold, silver, jewelry, and all things valuable I wanted it all. And also the courtyard where Ye Xiangrong used to live. Heaven knows how long I've been coveting that courtyard. Spacious and roomy, with decent views compared to the side hall I'm staying in, it's practically paradise. Upon hearing that I was moving there, the servants were each and every one of them stunned. But no one dared utter a word, only bowing their heads to help me move my things. When I first entered the general's mansion, the servants knew I was out of favor and almost all looked down their noses at me. But now, forget about looking down their noses at me, they don't even dare look at me at all. From a distance, if they see me coming, they go out of their way to avoid me as far as possible. But the servants assigned to follow me had no way to avoid it. No matter how fearful or apprehensive they were in their hearts. On the surface, they still had to put on a smile. Each and every one of them treated me with utmost respect and obedience. Even more respectful and obedient than when I had seen Ye Xiangrong before. I was quite satisfied. 11. The man I am to marry is the third prince, Xiao Jingyuan, the son of the empress. This marriage. Many people were promoted. Xiao Jingyuan was elevated to crown prince. The old general was promoted to the position of prime minister. Even Ye Rongzhou got promoted by 2 ranks. And I, Ye Jiarong, have become the crown princess that Ye Xiangrong once dreamed of being in her lifetime. That's right, I am no longer called Zayadai. The old general changed my name to Ye Jiarong. When giving me this name, the old general solemnly warned me that from now on, the fate of the general's household and I will rise and fall together. In a nutshell, he gave me everything I asked for, so I shouldn't mess around after entering the palace. Everything still needs to follow the general's orders. Since he has already made it so clear, I won't hold back any further. I also asked him for the general's wife's personal maids, Kaiyan and Kaiafwa, to be my bridal attendants. I've had my eyes on these two girls for quite some time now. Chuyan is skilled in martial arts and was carefully selected and bought by the general's wife. As for Chu Hua, she comes from a scholarly family and excels in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, songwriter, embroidery, needlework, as well as the rules and etiquette of the inner household. Such a talented woman would never normally become a servant, but due to her father's crimes as an official, she was nearly condemned to be a military prostitute. It was the general's lady who admired her and kept her by her side. These two young ladies have been instrumental in the general's lady firmly holding her position as the head of the household. They are like the general's lady's right and left hands. When Ye Xiangrong took a liking to Chu Hua, the old lady couldn't bear to part with her. Now I am asking for the both of them. The general's wife, who used to give me whatever I wanted before. But this time, she wouldn't do it. I heard she was so angry that she smashed a fine set of teacups and teapots, scolding me as an evil troublemaker, and deeply regretting ever acknowledging me in the first place. But despite her rage and tantrums, in the end, she had to reluctantly let go and obediently hand over Kaiyan and Kaiafwa to me. Because if she stubbornly refuses to give it up, I can make a scene and be even more ruthless than her. What's more, with the old general's mix of coercion and persuasion, she had no choice but to give in. 12. I brought along Chu Yan, Chu Hua, and countless dowries as I married into the Eastern Palace. On the night of the grand wedding, I finally saw the true face of Crown Prince Xiao Jingyuan. Lifting the bridal veil and gazing upon his face in that instant, I was utterly captivated, nearly forgetting to breathe. The man had long brows and profound eyes, a high straight nose and thin lips, his tall, sturdy figure complemented by the vibrant red wedding robe, making him elegant, dashing, and breathtakingly stunning. In all the world, there could be someone so handsome. He seemed less like a mortal man and more like a celestial deity from the heavens. All the men I've seen since I was a child don't even deserve to be called human. They're all a bunch of misshapen, worthless specimens. Before, I was willing to marry for the status of being the crown princess. I never even considered what the other person actually looked like, whether they resembled a human or a ghost. But now, I can't help but want to take a look at Xiao Jingyuan himself. I smiled, reaching out to take the initiative to shake his fair, slender, and well-defined large hand. Xiao Jingyuan, however, avoided me. His expression was icy as he said, "I have matters to attend to. The crown princess should rest on her own." With that, he flicked his sleeve and left me with the chill that rushed in as he opened the door and stepped out. It jolted me awake in an instant. Clearly, the other party wasn't impressed with me. No wonder the jerk didn't even bother to request a meeting before getting married. It seems he doesn't care who I am as a person. What he wants to marry is only the title of the general's daughter. I couldn't help but laugh. That's right, since I was a child, nobody has ever wanted me. I have never been favored by anyone. Not even my own family members like me. Not to mention someone as powerful, high-ranking, and breathtakingly beautiful as Xiao Jingyuan. It would be normal for him not to take a liking to me. But whether he took a fancy to me or not, I didn't care. Now that he is already my husband, sooner or later, I will have him. It's just a matter of sooner or later. I am in no hurry at the moment. After Xiao Jingyuan had left, I turned and instructed Kaiyan and Kaiafwa to bring me some food and drink. After a day of tedious procedures, I was already thirsty and hungry, and now I could finally let go of the formalities and eat and drink to my heart's content. Having eaten and drunk to our fill, we lay down and fell asleep immediately. In a daze, my mouth and nose were covered. The first thing I did was reach under the pillow for the dagger I always carried with me. Chuyan whispered in my ear, "Your Highness, it's me." She gestured for me to look toward the window. Someone was blowing a soporific drug into my room. I smiled silently. Indeed, nothing in this world ever comes easy. As the medicine's effects faded, Chuyan was about to leap into action to catch the poisoner. I grabbed her and stopped her from going. The enemy is in the shadows while we are in the open. If they are death warriors, capturing them would be useless. It would be better to wait and see what happens. 13. A night passed. The sky began to lighten. Bang! The door to my room was forcefully pushed open. Then, a large group of people came barging in. At the forefront were Xiao Jingyuan and an exceptionally beautiful young woman, followed by guards and servants. Xiao Jingyuan's face was filled with fury. "How dare you, you shameless woman! How dare you commit adultery on your wedding night?" The stranger, who had just been drugged by me in my bed, now lost in a daze of confusion. Startled by Xiao Jingyuan's roar, he broke into a cold sweat, instantly sobering up. He tumbled off the bed, scrambled onto his knees before Xiao Jingyuan, and pointed an accusing finger at me. "Please spare me, Your Highness, it was the Crown Princess who forced this servant." The Crown Princess said, "She said the night is lonely, the pillow solitary, and she wants this servant to accompany her. Otherwise have my entire family executed. It was only for their lives that I had no choice but to." Before he could finish speaking, the man succumbed to the poison, bleeding from all 7 orifices and dying. Xiao Jingyuan showed even greater indignation. "Ye Jiarong, how dare you have such nerve? If I had known you were so shameless and promiscuous, I should never have agreed to take you into the Eastern Palace as my bride. Today I will kill you, you wretched woman, to vent the hatred in my heart." Xiao Jingyuan snatched a sword from the guard beside him and furiously swung it toward me. But he was promptly stopped by the beautiful woman beside him. My appearance was originally not bad. After being carefully nurtured in the general's residence for a period of time, I believed I was quite a beauty myself. But compared to the beautiful woman before me, I had clearly become an ordinary girl you could find anywhere on the street. No wonder Xiao Jingyuan was not only unmoved by my carefully adorned appearance last night, but also, for her sake, he did not hesitate to set up a trap for me on our wedding night in such a frantic manner. At that moment, she wrapped her arms tightly around Xiao Jingyuan's slender waist and cried out in a sweet voice, "Your Highness, you must not. The Crown Princess is the daughter of Chancellor Ye and was appointed by His Majesty as your consort. No matter how angry you are, you must not take her life. Your Highness, please calm your anger. The Crown Princess surely knows she was wrong now. Please, for the sake of His Majesty and Chancellor Ye, spare her life this once." As she spoke, she turned her head to look at me on the bed, with an expression that suggested she was thinking of both my and Xiao Jingyuan's interests. She persuaded, "Crown Princess, quickly admit your mistake and promise His Highness that you will never repeat it. His Highness is merciful and will surely spare your life." Holding the dagger under the blanket, I watched them both with great amusement, as if they were performing a play, one finishing their part only for the other to take the stage. The beautiful woman intensified her tone. "Your ladyship, what are you still standing around for? This is your only chance to survive. Document anti-piracy printing, find the book robot, choose Xiaohu, stable and reliable, no pitfalls. Hurry, come over here, kneel down and kowtow, confess your crime and show remorse. Do you really want to die? After all, what happened tonight was truly disgraceful on your part. If word of tonight's events gets out, it won't just be your life at stake. The lives of your entire Ye clan are also held in your hands. Rest assured, as long as you swear by the lives of Prime Minister Ye and his entire family that from now on you will only honor His Highness and do whatever His Highness commands you to do, then the entire Ye family will be free from worries, and you will be free from worries as well. In the future, you will still be the Crown Princess of the Eastern Palace, right, Your Highness?" She lifted her exquisitely beautiful little face and winked at Xiao Jingyuan. Just moments ago seething with rage, Xiao Jingyuan's anger vanished instantly upon meeting her gaze. He obediently nodded, then affectionately pinched her cheek and said with a smile, "That wretched woman is lucky. For the sake of my you are pleading on her behalf, I'll let her off this time." The woman he called you slapped his hand away with a playful chide. Then he looked at me again, his tone growing even more arrogant and overbearing. "Your Highness, the Crown Princess, did you hear that? Come forward quickly to confess your guilt, repent, and swear your oath. Someone bring the confession letter over, and please have the Crown Princess sign and fingerprint it." At her command, someone immediately handed over a confession statement. I solemnly took it, looked it over, and without questioning a single word they had written, I instead grinned. "I understand, but before signing this confession, I wish to speak with the Crown Prince alone." 14. Upon hearing my request, Xiao Jingyuan instinctively glanced at his Yuer for guidance. Moon saw that the matter was done. Thinking she had successfully subdued me, her face brimmed with uncontainable triumph. Her eyes glimmered as her slender hand gave a light pinch to Xiao Jingyuan's waist, and she cooed sweetly, "Then I'll leave it to Your Highness to oversee your Crown Princess signing and stamping the document. Yuer will wait for Your Highness at the door. Please don't keep Yuer waiting too long." Then she swayed seductively, glancing back over her shoulder with every few steps as she left. Once she was gone, all the guards and servants also withdrew one after another. The room, filled with red candles, now held only me and Xiao Jingyuan. I got out of bed and walked toward him. At this moment, Xiao Jingyuan finally felt a bit guilty. He instinctively took a step back and said, "If you have something to discuss, just stand there and make it quick." I pressed him until his back was against the jade screen, leaving him with nowhere else to retreat. Then, I took off my outer garment, revealing my arms and shoulders clad only in a dadu, as well as my inner trousers clinging tightly to my legs. Xiao Jingyuan's face turned ashen, his breathing heavy. You shameless woman, don't you dare act recklessly." I said nothing, pressing myself close to him, one hand sliding down his body. Not long after, just as I wished, he displayed a man's instinctual reaction. In the blink of an eye, I drew the dagger from my waistband and with a precise strike, aimed straight for his vital point. 15. Last night, after the knockout drug took effect, I had Kaiyan investigate Xiao Jingyuan. His affair with that Yuer was no secret among the people in his own palace. Just grab any servant, give them a good beating, and you'll get the whole story clear as day. After finding out, I realized that Xiao Jingyuan is nothing more than a handsome, empty-headed playboy. The reason he was able to ascend to the position of crown prince was purely due to the tireless scheming of his mother, the empress, who exhausted her maternal clan's resources, rallied countless powerful ministers, and together they pushed and propped him up. His beloved Yuer, full name Lu Ruyu. She was once the courtesan at XX Tower who entertained with her arts but did not sell her body. Before meeting Lu Ruyu, Xiao Jingyuan had kept countless beauties by his side. But ever since he laid eyes on Lu Ruyu, he was bewitched by her beauty, and Xiao Jingyuan thought of her day and night. He showered her with vast amounts of silver and coaxed her with all kinds of sweet words, eventually winning the beauty's heart. Ever since he brought Lu Ruyu back, the beauties who had been by Xiao Jingyuan's side before, one after another began to make mistakes and were sold or died in accidents for no apparent reason. Anyone with half a brain could see that Lu Ruyu was driven by great ambition and ruthless methods. The deaths of these innocent young women are all due to the mischief wrought by her, Lu Ruyu. But Xiao Jingyuan was completely bewitched by Lu Ruyu, utterly indifferent to the lives of those women. He couldn't even be bothered to ask whether they were sold or left to die depended entirely on Lu Ruyu's word. And the scheme against me on the wedding night was also a brilliant suggestion that Lu Ruyu proposed to Xiao Jingyuan. All to ensure that Lu Ruyu's position as the mistress of the Eastern Palace remained unshaken. They can use me once more, continue to secure the Ye family, and serve Xiao Jingyuan's future ascension to the throne. But despite all their meticulous calculations, what they didn't anticipate was, this time, the one they encountered wasn't the refined, virtuous, thin-skinned, and overly concerned with face they imagined a young lady from a prestigious family to be. Instead, it was me, a woman as fierce as a jackal. I never suffer losses, so how could I possibly let them take advantage of me? 16. When Xiao Jingyuan awoke from his faint, it was already afternoon. His first action was to throw back the covers and look down at his crotch. I used several bottles of hemostatic medicine on him, and now it's all bandaged up neatly. There's no way to see the condition inside. I held his hand down. No need to look, you're a eunuch now. Xiao Jingyuan. He nearly fainted again. I pinched the philtrum point to bring him back to consciousness. His eyes were bloodshot, and he howled as he lunged at me. I will kill you. I raised my hand again to cover his mouth. Stop yapping. Is being a eunuch something to be proud of? Do you want the entire Eastern Palace know, the whole Imperial Palace to know you've been castrated? If your mother, the Empress, were to find out, how heartbroken would she be? And your father, the Emperor, if he knew that the royal family had produced a eunuch, do you think from now on there would still be a place for you in the Eastern Palace, or even the entire Imperial Palace? Hearing my words, he immediately became agitated. No, we absolutely cannot let anyone know, otherwise father will depose me and mother will kill me. Me absolutely. Her Majesty has high expectations for you, so of course we must not disappoint her. Don't worry, I've already passed the word down. Not a single word of what happened today will be leaked. Xiao Jingyuan suddenly lost his composure. With reddened eyes, he gritted his teeth and said, "Let Yuer come see me." She can't come. He grew agitated once more. Why? I answered truthfully, I have already killed her. Xiao Jingyuan once again howled and lunged at me. I will kill you. But he was now severely injured, and with just one hand, I pushed him back into the bed. I also helped tuck the blankets around him tighter. You don't know, she kept insisting on seeing you the whole time you were unconscious. If she were to see you like this now, how could we possibly handle it? She's the woman you love most. Surely you wouldn't want her to know you'll never be able to function as a man again, right? I'm doing this for your own good, so that in her heart, you'll always be that brave, capable man. From now on, you and I are the only ones on the same path. As husband and wife, we're one. When one thrives, the other thrives. When one suffers, the other suffers. Listen to me and I promise you won't go wrong." Xiao Jingyuan remained silent for quite some time. When I looked at him again, I found his eyes closed, tears silently streaming down from them. The more he cried, the more sorrowful he became, and the more sorrowful he was, the more tears flowed. A breathtakingly handsome man, weeping ceaselessly. It has a charm all its own. I leaned against the bedside, greedily stroking his waterfall-like long hair while fully admiring his exquisitely tearful face. Even if he ends up being all looks and no substance, having such a handsome base by my side to admire is quite nice. 17. I made up a heart condition for Xiao Jingyuan and had him recuperate in my palace. I handled all the formalities, from paying respects to the emperor and empress to the bridal return, entirely on my own. Even the empress, who was most concerned about Xiao Jingyuan, didn't ask many questions. She had never liked Lu Ruyu, who came from a lowly background and was prone to jealousy. After all, as his biological mother, seeing her son so infatuated, she didn't want to let a woman come between them. But now that I've gotten rid of Lu Ruyu, the empress is absolutely delighted to see it happen. Because this shows that I am very fond of her son, willing to eliminate a rival in love without hesitation, which means in the future I will wholeheartedly plan and strategize for her son. So she guessed that Xiao Jingyuan's heartache was due to the sudden loss of a loved one. Since that's the case, let him suffer from his illness then, he'll get better after a while. The queen currently only cares about two things. One is to firmly secure Xiao Jingyuan's position as the crown prince. Second, they hoped that Xiao Jingyuan would have descendants. Therefore, after 6 months without any sign of progress from my end, they began making arrangements to take a concubine for Xiao Jingyuan. But all were rejected by Xiao Jingyuan. Since being castrated, Xiao Jingyuan seemed to have changed his nature overnight. The affairs between men and women that he was once so passionate about. Now, even with a beauty before him, he couldn't be bothered to spare a second glance. I don't know since when, he suddenly became fascinated with needlework. Now, every day besides completing the official duties forced upon him by the empress, he just embroiders pouches, pillows, shoes, socks, and the like. During this time, he gave me many things he personally embroidered. I took a look, and the embroidery was actually quite well done. Then he also gave his empress mother personally embroidered brocade pouches, shoe inserts, and the like. The empress was initially quite pleased, thinking he was not only filial but also meticulous. However, upon learning that he had embroidered them himself, the empress was so enraged that she fainted on the spot. After being revived by the imperial physician, she ordered Xiao Jingyuan to stop embroidering. Xiao Jingyuan had never dared to defy her words. They wouldn't dare to do it openly. Yet she still secretly embroidered at night. Sometimes, she would even embroider late into the night. This file is protected against piracy. For authentic books, choose book that's stable, reliable, and hassle-free. As if enchanted by it. This only made the empress even more anxious to have a grandson. Xiao Jingyuan refused to take a concubine. Since he wouldn't agree to this, the empress couldn't very well force him into it, so she resorted to urging me, both openly and subtly, to hurry up and have a child. I agreed quite readily. In truth, even without her reminder, I wouldn't have been willing to let myself live as a widow in all but name. I have long kept a handsome, strong man by my side. During the day, I have him disguise himself as a maidservant to avoid suspicion. At night, he becomes the robust man who brings me joy in bed. This evening Xiao Jingyuan came to deliver a brocade pouch to me again. The timing is not auspicious, I happen to be straddling a handsome man on the bed. Xiao Jingyuan is crying again. Angered by the scene on the bed. He even threatens to complain to the empress and have me, this shameless woman, divorced. I tied him up together with my male servant. Then I sent him a male courtesan from the southern wind pavilion. From that moment on, Xiao Jingyuan opened the door to a whole new world. He became utterly obsessed, forgetting all thoughts of home. He never caught me cheating again. Not to mention the matter of divorcing my wife. 18. Several years later, the old emperor passed away, and Xiao Jingyuan successfully ascended the throne as emperor. On the day of his coronation, I saw him, a mere pretty face, made majestic by the imperial robes, as thousands of subjects knelt and hailed him with cries of "Long live the emperor." I felt a sense of shock. At that moment, I developed a desire to claim the throne for myself. But as I planned and schemed, I realized that the emperor had to rise early every day to attend court, listen to a bunch of tedious political affairs, and, after retiring from court, still had a pile of boring memorials to review. What difference was there between that and being a beast of burden toiling away for a lifetime? With that thought, I instantly lost interest in the throne again. I fought my way through all the obstacles to enjoy a life of ease in my remaining years. Not to work and suffer. So, let's see how Jingyuan keeps sitting on the throne. But most state affairs are handled by the Empress, so she's not called Empress anymore, now she's the Empress Dowager, and I am the Empress. It was the Empress Dowager and I who made the decision together. Xiao Jingyuan only needed to pass the decree along. When I gave birth to my first child, my biological father, Chancellor Ye, secretly swapped the newborn child of Ye Rongzhou with my own child at the same time. Moreover, after I married Xiao Jingyuan, Ye Rongzhou repeatedly tried to take my life. I have always kept it in mind, and when the opportunity finally arose, I sent Ye Rongzhou to the border to fight in the war. He's not as tough as his old man. And I specifically instructed the other generals accompanying him to give him special attention. The general did not disappoint. Before long, Ye Rongzhou fell in battle. I symbolically gave him some compensation. And that was the end of it. From that moment on, Chancellor Ye never again regarded me as his ally, but his son's murderer. Over the years, he endured hardships and spared no effort, investing countless manpower and resources, desperately cultivating the child of Ye Rongzhou that he had swapped for me. Until this child grows up. This child lived up to expectations, exceptionally talented, ruthlessly effective, ambitious, and bold. With his strength, he defeated the other children of mine and became the crown prince. At this moment, Ye finally felt reassured and took his leave. Before he passed away, I went to see him. He looked at me, smiling smugly. You thought you had finally outsmarted me. I leaned over and whispered in his ear, my dear, the child you swapped back then, I switched back long ago. The one who now ascends to the position of crown prince is my own flesh and blood, while the child you killed years ago was actually Ye Rongzhou's son. That child was abused by Ye's father from a young age and ultimately did not survive past the age of 6. Learning the truth, Father Ye choked on his anger, his eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace. Later, the Empress Dowager and Xiao Jingyuan passed away one after another. My child ascended the throne as emperor. I was elevated to Empress Dowager. In this world, there are countless handsome men, and I have enjoyed all the glory and wealth. Actually, from a very young age, I knew that a woman like me with a strong sense of possessiveness and who never shortchanges herself would never fare too poorly in life, no matter how treacherous the world or how wicked the people. Afterwards, over the course of my entire life, I successfully proved this to be true. And that truth is a woman who loves herself wholeheartedly truly lives an excellent life.